Hey, I was looking at my EDC knife box and I was thinking I have a real cool rainbow of knives in terms of types of knife, where they're from, lock types, steel types, and everything. So I thought I would do a one-by-one review. This is all the stuff that I can choose from realistically on a given day. I have other knives, they're in different drawers and whatnot, and fixed blades, I've got millions of fixed blades. But all this stuff, when I start the day, I think about what kind of day I'm going to have, and I'll pick one or two of these things, and I'm off. So let's go through them one by one. Basil, do you want me to go and do this somewhere else and not disturb you, mate? Alrighty, so we'll take these to the shed and we'll go, I'll let you know what country of origin, steel type they are, and just a rough price that I can find in US dollars will do, because that seems to be where most of you are watching from. And then I guess if you're in another country, just adjust. Alrighty, let's go. We'll try and do one take and I'll try and get them up on the screen so you can see them as well as possible. First up, the Hogue Decker Magna Cut. What a great example of a really accessible price point for a good slice of Magna Cut steel. It's nice and thin, it's ground well, it's thin behind the edge. It's a very similar knife design purpose overall to the Benchmade Bug Out, but a lot better. It's a better steel, it's a lower price, and it's still US made. Overall, very little to complain about here. The polymer handles are pretty lightweight, pretty thin feeling. The whole knife's super basic. It's got an Axis style lock, whatever we're calling these, crossbar locks or whatever now. But yeah, overall deep carry clip. All the basic elements of a great EDC knife. I would give this a 9 out of 10. Moving on to the Spyderco Police. The Police 4 is a great big slice of K390 steel. One of my favorites. It's not the most wieldy knife in the world. It does mitigate that slightly by having a finger choil. I like it more than the Endura for that purpose, as if you're looking at your large, big Japanese Spyderco lockbacks. But in general terms, you do need to wonder with the Seki City knives if you're going to get a good one, because often they are a little bit crooked. This one here actually has a second washer in here to keep the blade centered-ish. Before that, it was rubbing on one of the scales. So look, overall, these designs are probably getting a little bit dated now. I love this as an example of the steel and as a performing cutter, but you know, in terms of an EDC knife for everyone, I'd give it about a 7 out of 10. It is one of my favorites though. Buck Marksman, here we are. 154 cm steel. It also does come in a CPM 154, depending on when you buy it. This is a really interesting and unique lock from the Hawks. It's got this strap lock where you flip it out. It's basically got no resistance to the flipper. Knife just kind of free hangs. It's very much a jiggly, wiggly knife, can be a little bit, but yeah, it locks up really nice and strong, fitting under that strap there, which makes for a pretty ergonomic thumb ramp as well. It's a Tanto, it's a pretty odd looking knife. You could even say it's a bit of an ugly looking knife, but it's unique and fun to play with, which is a pretty big point of a lot of EDC collecting, and it keeps a variety in the collection for sure, having one of these. Look, overall, I'd give it about an 8 out of 10 as an EDC knife for any old person, because it does have that real fun factor to it. And it's definitely going to be one of the more unique pieces in your collection. If you can still get one, I don't know if they're even still made anymore. Here's the Lion Steel Thrill, and I like this one a lot as well. This is a slip joint knife. It's a bit dirty at the moment, I'm sorry to say. It's kind of got an integral-ish handle. It's only integral-ish. I think it is still... well, you know what? I think it actually is integral. It just doesn't look it. It's got a sort of a spacery looking back. Anyway, not a big deal. Really comfortable titanium handle in the hand, really smoothed over like Lion Steels always are. No sharp edges. It's got the retractable pocket clip, so you can use it either as a pocket clipping knife or not. And when you choose not, it just folds back into the handle, allowing you to really grip without having pocket clip in your fist. So really nice. M390 steel. Typical Italian line steel treatment. It's on the softer side, so if you're really bothered, if you're an HRC, devotee, then this may not tickle you as much. But even basically treated M390 like this is going to hold an edge for about as long as a good S35 VN. And these aren't the most expensive of the line steels either. They're probably about $205 or something in Australia. Not crazy. So overall, it didn't didn't hurt me too bad, being slightly on the softer side. I believe this one did 450 cuts in the test, which is, about 150 to 200 lower than most other M390s do. So, it's definitely notable, but it's not the end of my world, but maybe the end of yours. So the information certainly is out there. But a great looking knife, really stylish, really comfortable in the hand, and a good slip joint option if you're after such a knife. I'd give this one a 7 out of 10. Moving on to these Almar Eagles. So this is my favorite model of knife in terms of its appearance and its general character. As users, I would have to probably sit them at about a 6 out of 10 overall, because it's AUS 8 steel. They're very expensive to find even now, and even back in the day they were. The steel will not hold an edge for long compared to basically every other knife on this table here. But looks-wise, I absolutely love them, and I give them a 10 for looks, which definitely rounds it up to being one of my favorite, if not my favorite model of pocket knife, of all pocket knives. So I'm a bit funny like that. One is the heavy duty with the swedge there. One is the lightweight with the flat grind. I do actually use these, but again, the steel isn't going to hold for as long as you would like. I'd love grail knife is these in the ZDP 189. My goodness, that would be a home run. But for an expensive knife in AUS 8, I'm not going to give it much higher for everyone than a 6. The Quiet Carry. Goodness me, I always forget the name of this knife. It's in Vanax. I'll put the name on the screen right now. This is a really competent, really good knife, kind of reminding me a little bit of the Hogue in terms of what it is. It's like a basic liner locking knife that has a great steel in it that does all the basic stuff really, really well. Probably just lacking a little bit of character to me. I would give this about an 8 out of 10. The Vanax steel is very like Magna Cut-esque to use, won't rust, holds an edge for a great long time. They've done a really good hollow grind blade on there, which is still very, very thin, which is really good. All that troubles me with this knife is the finger choil groove notch there is just a little bit narrow for my finger, and I don't have particularly huge hands. So if you had wider fingers than me, you'd probably find your hand not really sitting that comfortably wrapping around this guy. It's got a good deep carry clip. It's a good set of elements here. It's quite expensive as well, which, I mean, you do pay a bit for Vanax, but then you can get the similar performance from Magna Cut, which is coming down in price. I would give this knife an 8 out of 10. Moving on to the blues. Gonna go with the Spyderco Native. This one here is in Spy 27. The Spyderco Native is possibly the safest general choice knife if you want to gift someone a knife, in my opinion. It's got a neutral handle, but it does have the optional finger choil. I always say, when you're buying someone a knife, sight unseen, always get the most like detail less handle, really nice basic handle. And whilst it does have a couple of like waves here, they're very accommodating. It's a lockback knife, so everyone will know how to use it. It's a Spyderco, it's a US-made Spyderco, so the steel is always going to be good, whatever steel you get it in. This Spy 27 performs very similar to your standard S35 VN. I like FRN as a handle material. I like it as much as G10. I've got no problems with it at all. It's a bit of a boring knife. It's a bit of a small blade as well, and it's a little bit sort of shallow carrying in the pocket. I would give this an 8 out of 10, but would certainly suggest this for someone who doesn't have a knife that you want to get their first knife for. It's a great choice, nice and small in the pocket. Does very little wrong, but is not the most exciting knife either. Moving on to the Swish Bowie. Smash. Right, so we've got a M390 blade, blued titanium handles. This was the Knife Joy exclusive. It's got a deep carry clip. All the elements for a great pocket knife are here, and it truly does live up to a lot of its hype. They're just not worth the money that you'd pay for them on the secondhand market, and this was too expensive for what it is as well. It's made in Taiwan to really good standards, but don't pay $400 for these. It's ridiculous. Like, it's M390 in titanium. Unless you're paying that, unless you've got a lot more like human interaction with your knife, in my opinion, not worth the price. But as a sight unseen, just get this in your hand, start using it knife without being told how much it costs. I'd give this a 9 out of 10 for sure. It's a really, really great user knife. Very little problems with it whatsoever. It doesn't have a couple of more mod cons, like it doesn't have all of the annealed lock bar faces or the replaceable lock bar contact points, all those sorts of things. But it's a smooth knife that feels really high quality in hand. Definitely a user, definitely a capable beater knife. It's just so expensive, probably not many people are going to do that anymore, but certainly does all of my knife jobs really happily. The M390 steel in this one has done quite well as well. Spyderco usually hit it out of the park, or at least are highly competent with their treatments. So 9 out of 10 for the Swish Bowie for sure. The TRM Atom is probably one of my favorite general choice EDC knives. If these were more available, that would be the knife I would recommend to everyone. But I know it's really frustrating being on waiting lists and playing, refresh the screen when you're trying to get a knife. And so that really does sort of I do take that into account when I'm recommending knives, but the Atom is, for me, the ideal handle, the ideal blade, super thin, really good serviceable steel. 20 CV is a great sort of upper tier steel. If these were in Magna Cut, that'd be absolutely perfect. This one's got denim micarta handles. I've also got the kit for the silver, like titanium handles. I've also got the grey G10 handles. I've also got some blue. These blue CF type handles. These are my favorite knives. These and the Neutrons. I give these 10 out of 10. I don't think there's anything really wrong with them that you could fault these on at all, apart from the process of buying them. Deep carry clips, comfortable, sort of rounded off. You can get rounded radius G10 handles. You can get the flat handles. There's enough options there to really be able to get the knife that you want, and cuts really great. Great heat treatment. All in all, really, really good. 10 out of 10. First 10 out of 10 for the video for sure. This is the Nasco Band, the lander here. This is in D2 steel. This is a really sort of super basic little knife from Ben. It's got a deep carry clip. It's got all the elements that most knife guys are after in their like lower cost knives. It's made of D2 steel. It's got a lot of customizable options with the scales, which is really cool. Very similar to the TRM. You can just sort of undo the scales and leave the rest of the knife together and swap them out as much as you can. Ben and other people sell lots of sort of custom scales for these. I've left one pink, one blue on. I don't quite know why I did that. Look, it cuts really well. It performs fine. It's quite a small knife in hand, probably a little bit small for me. D2 steel is a bit ho-hum, I know that, but it's a budget knife offering as well. These, I believe, are made by QSP. Some people had some fit and finish issues with them, but I believe they're getting ironed out. I haven't heard as much of that these days. I'll give this knife a solid 7 out of 10 for what it is for the price and whatnot. Moving to the other Ben knife, the Banter. This is a really super neutral, don't pay any heed to the blade there. I was using it to sub it in for something else. The Banter is a super neutral, super basic knife, kind of very similar ethos to this guy here. Slightly higher priced, about $100 and something. Not crazy. S35 VN steel, made by We Knife Company. G10 handle, again, not a huge amount to say about it, hasn't already been said. It's comfortable in the hand. It does all of your basic small knife jobs really, really well. I would definitely give this an 8 out of 10. There are certainly no problems with it, but there's nothing really to make it a favorite for me either. And I probably don't carry this as much as I maybe thought I would. So 8 out of 10 for that one. And remaining also in the 8 out of 10 field is the Civivi Cubit. This is a Civivi I've had for a pretty recent amount of time. I love that it's a button lock. I don't have too many button locks. You're only really seeing that take off in the last couple of years. Button locks on basically everything. It used to really be the realm of like ProTech and things to have manual button locking folders, but it's cool to see that mechanism get out and about. It's really great, tall, thin blade made of 14C28N, which is a great steel. Great sort of non-powdered budget steel. If you're looking for budget knives and 14C28N is a steel, buy with confidence. It's generally a winner. Takes a good sharp edge. Is tough, has a lot of good properties to it. This has blue aluminium handles, which are nice and smooth. Overall, really, really comfortable. It's got some kind of bottle opening mechanism there, which I frankly just ignored. And a good deep carry pocket clip. Look, really nothing wrong with this knife at all. Nothing super memorable about it either, so solid 8 out of 10 knife there. Spyderco Stretch. Spyderco Stretch is my favorite model of Spyderco. This is my most used knife, my absolute beater, but it's still, unlike a lot of my other beater knives, one that I really do care for and really do like. It is a design piece, and as it looks and as it feels in hand and everything. K390 could be my favorite steel for a knife, even though it does tarnish up pretty darn well, as you can see. I love to sharpen it. I love to get as much performance out of it as I can with interesting sharpening techniques and whatnot. It's a fun steel. This knife is, initially pretty dull, pretty mundane, and I think it gets branded as that because it's a lockback. It's really the same dimensions pretty much as the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. And I believe it's actually as good, or if not a better knife for everyone. It's more comfortable in the hand, it's less blocky, and overall it's a real winner. I love the forward finger choil. This is a 10 out of 10 knife for me, absolute favorite, especially in the K390. All the elements are here. I think it's a really recommendable knife for pretty much anyone. It's really great, a bit like the Native, a great sort of sight unseen, buy for anyone kind of knife, as long as they're happy with something just a little bit bigger, because it is a fair bit bigger than the Native overall. All right, definitely a 10 out of 10 and one of my other favorites. Okay, moving to the Browns. The Browns, all right, I've got a buck 110 here, which I have less and less, I like, unironically, less and less am I making fun of this knife overall, because you use it, especially when you use some handles that just don't work. The buck handle really does work. For a bigger knife, that's quite comfortable. Like it feels, and I don't know, I know they don't wear down, but you really feel your wear into your buck 110. And I've had this for ages, and I really do. I'm becoming more and more of an Uncle Randy with regards to this knife specifically. I really need to get myself like a Magna Cut one, and I think I would actually carry and use a Magna Cut buck 110. It doesn't need a pocket clip. It's about perfect for a big sheath knife as it is right now, or a big sort of pocket knife right now. Adding clips to it, adding thumb studs to it, to me is unnecessary and kind of gets in the way of like how it carries and how the blade performs, because the blade performs really well. It's got one of the better hollow grinds you're getting from most factory companies. The 420 HC steel, not great, but it's about as good as it can get using that steel. These are a bit pricey, but again, you've got like, rather than expensive blade materials, you've got like ebony wood, you've got brass. It's a lot. There's enough going on here that I kind of get it. Anyway, I kind of get it, and yeah, overall, I'm liking it more and more the longer I retain it. This is the buck 110. I give about a 7 out of 10 for an EDC knife for anyone, because there's a lot of character here. It's not got all the mod cons. It's basically got no mod cons, but overall, well made. They cut well. Yeah, 6 or 7 out of 10. Paramilitary 2s. So I've got the Crewwear one here, which I feel is probably the best overall Paramilitary 2 model. It's got about the middle of the pack of all the great steels they use. Crewwear is good steel, but it won't last as long edge retention as like the S110V or the 15V or the Maximet. But it's going to, be a bit tougher, I guess, if you're going to really hard use just Paramilitary 2, which I wouldn't really recommend. These are just good, bigger EDC knives, still just using for EDC tasks. I wouldn't take these out and go bushcrafting with them or anything like that, even though you see guys in other videos doing that. Look, it's got good elements. I like the, choking up. I like the choking back. I like specifically the handle on this one with the micarta that goes all the way to the edge. Really, really nice. It's got a compression lock, which is fun. Smashing into my DBK. Got a compression lock, which is fun. You can get deeper carry clips. I prefer the deeper carry clips for most knives. Look, overall, this is a 8 to 9 out of 10. It's closer to a 9 than an 8. And yeah, generally speaking, I feel like the stretch does this role better, just in my opinion. Don't know if that's a controversial take, but yeah, it's a bit boxier. I like the pocket clip and the lock a bit more on the stretch, even though it is still the same kind of spoon style clip. I think it works a bit better with the FRN. Don't know, just maybe it's the boxiness at the back of the handle. I just feel almost like the stretch is a more refined version of this knife, which is probably a stupid sounding thing to say. The compression lock is probably stronger than the back lock, but I've never really needed the extra strength in a pocket knife. So there you go. Look, great knives, 8 to 9s out of 10s. And moving up to the slightly lighter, much better performing 15V variant of this, just for having one of the craziest steels and craziest heat treatments. This is a 9 out of 10 for me. As a steel nerd, I really, really love it. Recommending it to everyone else, probably sits around an 8 still, because sharpening might become a bit of an issue for you unless you have good sharpening equipment. This one's still in tip down mode, so still eating the wet bread just a little bit with this one. Haven't actually been carrying it that much because I've been reviewing other knives, but this is, about 50-50 is how I choose to carry a PM2 between these two if I'm carrying. So great knife, love the heat treatment, love the steel. Just a testament to Spyderco's sort of pushing the limits ethos with steels. Love it a whole bunch. Here's the Real Steel Mini Metamorph in M390 and micarta, a great slim pocket knife. I love myself a slim knife. This one has a pretty okay treatment of M390 steel. It's got a deep carry clip, which has continued to come away from the handle just a little bit. Not great there, but overall a cool example of a pretty affordable, pretty good little slim knife made of a M390 steel. Look, overall, 7 to 8 out of 10. Pretty happy with it overall. It hasn't been carried too much, I'll admit, though, in recent times. Okay, here's another Civivi. Civivi released so many darn knives that I forget what they're all bloody called. This is an ultra-thin little Civivi. Buddy Chris suggested that I would like it, and yeah, I like it quite a bit. It's got a Warncliffe-style blade. It's a good little utility cutter. This would fit in like a pen pocket or something like that. No worries at all. Got a relatively deep-ish carry clip with a couple of screws to grab it. Really not much to this knife. It's got like kind of this browny, greeny, pooey coloured paper micarta sort of handle finish there. It's fine. I think this one's in Nitro V, Ostap Hell design. Goodness me, I can't even remember what it's called. I'm very sorry. I'll put the name up on the screen. I'll just double check if I can see the steel. I think this one's in Nitro V. You know what? I'll put it all on the screen. That's the best way to do it. And we're out of the browns. out of the browns. This one I would give about a 7 out of 10. It's certainly not for everyone, probably a little bit on the slim side. We're into the greens now. Here is the Atlantic Salt in LC200N from Spyderco. A bit more of a purpose-driven knife. This is my kayaking knife. I'll take this when I go out on the water, which I do as much as I can. It's super lightweight knife. The FRN is slightly different. I, to be honest, prefer this pattern of FRN, and I don't know why they went with this one because it's less grippy, less aggressive. And I think in a water application, you want more grippy. But anyway, still plenty grippy, probably just nitpicking there. Whole knife is basically rust proof. You'd have to really do a lot to rust or cause corrosion to this knife here. It's got a D-shackle grabber here, so if you have a D-shackle style turnbuckle, you can open it with, which I guess is harkening back to marine sort of features there. Big flat Warncliffe blade, easy to sharpen. You know, good in some certain circumstances, but cutting against any boards or whatnot, you're going to find like just the tip is usable sort of thing. But yeah, overall, 8 out of 10, no dramas. 7 out of 10 if it's for EDC use, but 8 out of 10 for its actual marine use, no worries at all. Here's the Benchmade Bailout in M4 steel with an aluminium handle with its glass breaker dropped off, which is how they should come, if you ask me. The M4 steel is great. It's got a really nice thin blade, good fun axis or bar style lock, whatever you're after. Aluminium handles are comfortable and nice and neutral in the hand. This is one of my favorites. This is a 9 out of 10 without a doubt. The Benchmade 945. This is a small version of the 940, and I liked it a lot at first, but I'm liking it less and less as I use it and as I try and convince myself to carry it. It just ain't happening. I give this about a 6 out of 10. It's very expensive. It's just too small. I think this knife really flourishes as a longer knife, and as a longer knife, the 940 is a solid 9 out of 10. Just in my hand, it doesn't fit. It's too darn small, I'm sorry to say. Pocket clip is, you know, for a small knife, I would prefer it to be a deeper carry. Don't know, just a little bit out of whack to me. A little bit out of whack. Reminds me of how the Para 3 is to the Paramilitary 2. As in, like, it's about the same price almost, but you get a whole lot less in terms of everything else. So, definitely not my favorite, unfortunately. As much as I love the look and the design, yeah, just, you know, not overall as recommendable for someone like me with my, you know, larger-ish hands. Anyway, moving to the oranges. Here's an orange knife. This is a GEC Farm and Field tool, super basic lockback knife. It's very, very neutral. It's $10.95. It's about a 7 out of 10 for me. I like it. I like all these knives, or else they wouldn't be here, you know. But in terms of if I'm ranking them as my personal preferences, is where I'm trying to go, and I'm also trying to factor in for everyone, you know. So hard to really recommend a $10.95 knife that's, you know, probably quite difficult to find, quite expensive. I don't quite get it, the whole GEC thing. That being said, I like this knife individually. It's probably one of the most untraditional of the GECs in that it locks and it's got a orange plastic handle, but there you go. Overall, it's fine. The TR, whose moustache could that be? The TRM Neutron 2, 10 out of 10. Probably my favorite actual user knife. This and the Atom just fit so well in my hand. The blades are great. There is just very little wrong with these knives at all. Customizable handles, really easy. Good heat treatment on the steel, deep carry pocket clips. Again, if they were easy to find, I would recommend them to absolutely everyone, but I certainly don't expect people to play the lottery that can sometimes be getting a TRM knife. So by all means, although I'm giving them 10s, there are certainly other great options here. The stretches, the natives, you know, heaps of good stuff. The Deckers, all those sorts of knives, great EDC knives that probably like a little bit less than these, but are easier for you to get. Here's the Civivi knives, the Baby Banter. So this is the Nitro V. Feels like a really good little utility cutter, great little steel on it. To be honest, I don't carry it a great deal, if at all. I don't know why, probably the blade might be a bit small for me. I give this a 7 out of 10. It's really well made. It's a great Civivi knife, great design. Bends the ethos of super accessible knives for everyone. Certainly rings true here. Deep carry clip. It's comfortable. It's got a pretty clever little handle. 2-finger knife, or, you know, 4-finger knife. You know, really goes to 3 fingers to 4 fingers. You know what? Lots of control, lots of cutting ability for a small blade. But yeah, for me, 7 out of 10. Here is the Sandrin Torino. This is a knife made of a carbide, so it's not a steel, it's a tungsten carbide knife. This is a really good knife. I like this a whole lot. I love the lock is unique. The handle is unique. Everything about it is unique. Feels very much like the Buck Marksman, like a really unique knife in my collection. I give this one a 9 out of 10. I really do rate these knives. Deep carry pocket clip, like the TC really does outcut most steels, if not all steels. The 15V maybe gives it a run for its money. But, you know, from the box, these are going to cut for so long before you have to do anything with them. So long, in fact, that you'll probably, if you're an EDC nerd like me, probably have moved on from the knife while it's still razor sharp. You know, let's be realistic here. But it's good in the hand. It's got a forward finger trail. It's got an interesting lock. It's got a thin blade of a great material. It's kind of ugly, maybe. So it's probably why I give it a 9 out of 10, because it's not everyone's cup of tea visually. But really, I see very little wrong with this knife. Okay, we've got to the Paramilitary 3, the Para 3. These are a 6 to 7 out of 10 for me. Look, I just think get a Paramilitary 2, get the slightly longer blade. You won't really notice it in your pocket unless you're like, I don't know, really restricted by your length, if you're in one of those places where that matters. I just feel like it feels about the same in pocket as the Paramilitary 2, but it does less. So I don't know, I never really was a huge fan of this blade. I like the lightweight a little bit more perhaps than the heavier G10 one as well. But yeah, overall, they're fine. I like them, but just for me, yeah, 6 to 7 out of 10. Feels very similar to how these are sort of just not quite, miniing the traditional knife pattern down sometimes doesn't work. And I think these are examples of that, in my opinion, anyway. Hot takes, who knows? The Demko AD 20.5, these are quite popular at the moment. It's got a really interesting lock. Again, fun to have in your collection, and I will always probably keep these in my collection because of the shark lock. You know, sometimes it's about the steel, sometimes it's about the performance or how good they are at using. Other times it's about how fun they are to play with. This one's very fun to play with. As a knife though, I think I've said before, I didn't end up really using it. It's kind of a bit odd, a bit awkward in the pocket, a bit big, a bit sort of wide. Yeah, it really does feel like, yeah, similar to this almost, as in like it just takes up more space than you feel that's worth is, you know? Don't know. Overall, I love the engineering, the design of it. The AUS 10 steel, I'm fine with it. Would like them to be a bit cheaper, but I get why they can't be. I'd give this about a 7 out of 10. I'm bleeding. Right, gray knives. Here is the Civivi Lumi. Really cool little flicky, fun Civivi knife. Disappears into your pocket. It's thin. It's got a good little blade of Nitro V or is ABO steel, one of the two, one of that family of steels. God, it's hard to tell. I don't know. Anyway, it's ABO or Nitro V or 14C, one of those, the Civivi basic steels. Look, this is a really fun little knife. I'd give this an 8 out of 10 without a doubt. It's really sharp, really good cutter. It does kind of the same role as like maybe the Baby Banter does, but I like it better than the Baby Banter. So yeah, solid 8 out of 10. Yeah, good knife, cost effective. They really don't take up much space anywhere. Really neat looking when they're closed. Overall, really good stylistic and yeah, just really nifty little knife in my opinion. Underrated perhaps, or under talked about. Although there are so many bloody Civivis, where would you even start? Spyderco Spidey Chef. This is a classic favorite of mine and still is objectively an excellent knife. The LC200N steel is great. Having played with other knives since, got onto my TRM bender since, I would like this to be thinner. If this was thinner, this would probably be a 10 out of 10. As it is an 8 to a 9 out of 10. Probably closer to a 9 than an 8. But yeah, generally speaking, it's a great knife, really comfortable, cool styling, very kind of futuristic looking, good in the hand. It is a good cutter, good performer, quite robust, quite rugged as well. You could use this for a lot of work. Like it's swish Bowie-ish in terms of its overall applications as a knife. You know, the boxy handle, some people like a more radiused, rounded handle. I actually don't mind it. I feel its boxiness fits in well with the hard angles of a closed hand, maybe. Don't know. Overall, it's a great package. I'd love to see this moved up to Magna Cut and yeah, moved up to a slightly thinner blade as well. That would be great. Then that would be a 100% 10 out of 10 knife. But as it is, yeah, 8 to 9, everything else about it, good elements. Just expensive now as well, which does sort of hold it back a little bit. Not sure if they're still in production. Alrighty, moving to my fixed blades. These are my 4, like, if I'm gonna reach for a fixed blade on a given day, these are the ones that I'll choose for. Depending on the task or just depending on how the mood takes me. I do spend a lot of days with a fixed blade on my hip. The DBK knife is great. It's an Elmax steel. This is a 10 out of 10 fixed blade without a doubt. They're hard to get, they're expensive. If you can't get one of these, Bark River will make something similar, Falcon Even will make something similar. They will do everything you want from this size knife, you know, these convexy grounds, you know, this is flat then convex ground knives. This is just perfect in the hand, neutral handles, super basic. Look, they didn't reinvent the wheel with this, they just made a really great knife. There's probably lots of 10 out of 10 knives like this. It's hard to fuck up a fixed blade that looks like this, isn't it really? So, but overall, the design is great, the steel is great, the LMAX is a good choice for a sort of somewhat rugged fixed blade knife. Cuts really well, does all the jobs. Compact survival knife, everything knife. Probably just a bit rare and expensive to be using as a complete wrecked knife, which is where the other knives might come in that I'm going to talk about. Okay, so the Mora Companion Spark, right down the other end of the cost pyramid. These are great, really, really good. I like this more than the Companion because it's got a fire steel in the handle. It's probably got a little bit less tang, but I'm not abusing my Companions. The ones with the tangs that go to here or the tangs that go to here, I don't care. I love the inbuilt fire steel, I never lose it. And I use this to start a lot of fires around my property and in my fireplace. So great little knife, the Mora Companion Spark. This is a 10 out of 10, it absolutely is. There is no way to really improve upon this knife, I don't believe, while still only costing about $40 in Australia. Crazy good deal. Another 10, these are all 10 out of 10s, my fixed blades. This is an Alex Stron, I don't know what model, I don't know what he calls the model. This is in S45 VN, curly birch handle, full flat grind, just a beautiful knife. This is like a pride piece in my collection. I try not to use it too hard, but I've definitely used it. Cut's great, steel's great. It's a complete home run. Leather sheath, a bit basic leather sheath, of course, but it's all you need really, isn't it? Lovely knife, gorgeous knife, and yeah, definitely a winner. Really recommend Alex Stron. I don't know how many knives he's putting out. I think it's just a part-time gig, but for a part-time gig, amazing. And then the Creeley Blades, Magna Cut bushcraft knife, again for me is a 10. Does everything that you want a bushcraft knife to do while still being really heavy and robust and sort of durable for a yard knife or a utility knife, which is what I've been using it for. Yep, it's a low Scandi grind, so I guess over the life of the knife, you might need to eventually regrind it a little bit higher perhaps, which you could do on a Tormek or something similar with very little hassle, but still a hassle. But overall, the Magna Cut's going to last ages. This one's been in service for about 9 months now, getting absolutely hammered. And I've had no real issues with the edge or anything. It's stropped back in most cases. I think I've given it a run on the sharpening stones once or twice to really no negative effect. Super neutral, G10 handle. Look, expensive, of course, waiting list, all that stuff that comes with getting a sort of handmade knife from someone in America. But, you know, overall, for a bushcraft knife especially, I feel like that's the knife to go all handmade and artisanal and stuff. And Gary makes a great one, so really do enjoy it. And it's done a great amount of work for me. I love it a lot. So those are my 4 10 out of 10 fixed blade knives, you know. Righto, multi-tools, Victorinox's Swiss Tool Spirit is here. This is a pretty comprehensive tool set. I like it's got a 3D Victorinox driver. This is a 9 out of 10. I would like a bit better tool accessibility, but everything else about it in terms of tool set and everything. I'd like the tool accessibility to be a little bit better. Sometimes it's hard to get my nail in under that Phillips head, for example. But then also the scissors on this one are actually a bit shitty. I've got the really small mouth Victorinox scissors. I would love to have seen the jiggly spring rather than the fixed spring scissors. I was trying to open Zupadoobers for my kids with these the other night and it was fucking embarrassing. Anyway, overall though, the tool is of great quality. It's definitely standing the test of time, 9 out of 10. It would be a 10 if they had different scissors on it, for sure. The Leatherman Charge is here. This has got also a 9 out of 10 tool. Not perfect. None of these are really perfect, the Leathermans or the Swiss tools in my opinion. Look, it's got the 154 cm blade. It's got a really good outside tool set. You know, overall, it's a winner. I would love them to see them. I don't never need the can opener. I'd love to see them get rid of the can opener. Have maybe a longer bit driver, like a more comprehensive, like even if they're made, it come with the longer bits. I know they make the longer ones. For sure, sometimes the little two-dimensional driver here is not what you want, and you do need the 3D Phillips. And the 3D Phillips to me is almost an essential multi-tool tool. 2.5D does most of the job, but it can be a little bit slippy. But overall, really super high quality, American made, Leatherman's great. You know, what more can be said? 9 out of 10. Then we've got the Wave, which is basically the Charge, but with nudie handles. This is an old Wave with the, before they went to the Jaws. And yeah, overall, 9 out of 10. What do you say about a Wave? It hasn't been said a billion, bajillion times. This is the Leatherman. This is the Victorinox Cyber Tool. So this one has a cool little 3D mini Phillips driver and extra drivers in it. So basically a lot of the common drivers you can get, and you can keep them here for spare as a little screwdriver. So I use this a whole lot as a little mini screwdriver. I carry it with me quite often. I carry it to work quite often. I use it for all sorts. And the rest of the tool is like a super tinker. So it's got a pair of pliers, a pair of scissors, and the Victorinox 3D Phillips, I believe. Where is it? No, yeah, it's got the 3D Phillips on the driver arm. That's what it is. Got lost for a second there. On the back tool, it's got the corkscrew and the mini driver as well. The pin, the toothpick, the pen as well. Yeah, it's got everything. Really comprehensive Victorinox without getting into being those like really wide, weird ones that are just almost unpocketable. So really cool. You can still keep this in a pocket rather than in a sheath. The Gerber Dime is a nifty little mini multi-tool. Whilst its general build quality isn't that great. Oh, sorry. This is a 10 out of 10. I think this is the best Victorinox, without a doubt. I love it. This is about a 5 out of 10, right? These are not made very well, but I love the tool set. As in, a little pair of pliers, good for picking up gross things in the yard, where you don't want your fingertips to go. It's got the package opener tool, which is good. It's got the bottle opener built into it, which is good. They're just kind of made shittily. So 5 out of 10 because they are a bit crusty. Like sometimes the tools are really, they almost bust your nails to get them out. The blade is probably 1 CR, 1 MOV, so it's not great, but design-wise, I love how it looks and I love the idea behind it. I'd just love to see them made a little bit better. The Skeletal is the last thing I'll talk about. So the Skeletal is an excellent little EDC multi-tool hybrid. This is a 9 out of 10, 154 cm blade on a handle that is comfortable enough to actually use as a knife. So you could use this as your knife blade without a bother. This could be your sole EDC tool with no worries at all. It's got 2D drivers, replaceable, and it's got the second one that's sort of stowed in the other handle here. Slides out there. Really, really well done. Great design from Leatherman. These have been out for ages. The pliers are like light duty, but fine. This one's probably the oldest tool on my channel, and it still gets carried probably more than a lot of the other stuff from back in the day. I've sharpened the knife so often, it's probably about a ½ centimeter shorter than it's supposed to be. But yeah, a great tool, a solid 9 out of 10. It's not a 10 because it doesn't do a multi-tool or a knife properly. But it was a 1 tool option, a 1 tool kit. Absolutely great. So there we go. So that's everything. That's my go box, right? I've got some other stuff around. I'm always reviewing knives. So this is my Civivi fixed blade I'm reviewing. I've got a whole bunch of other fixed blades, but that's my daily stuff. That's the stuff that I'll pick from at the start of the day. It's probably largely unchanged since last time. I've brought a few things in, got a few things out. I'm sort of trying to streamline my collection a little bit. As a knife collector, this is probably quite modest compared to some of the other guys on YouTube. I sell stuff on eBay a bit. I move stuff along as quick as I can. Right now I'm selling a bunch of stuff on eBay, which will be done by the time I upload this video. I just kind of put it up as lots. And I just only sell in Australia only, so I'm not really going to give that or advertise that because it's just more annoying questions than they're worth. But yeah, I move all my stuff. I try and get, if it's just sitting in a drawer getting dusty, I've decided to just move it on at, whatever, quick sale, and not after squeezing every penny out of every knife. A lot of my knives get used pretty hard, so they come pretty, they come definitely well worn. So anyway, so yeah, I'm trying to keep my collection a little bit more streamlined. I'm trying to keep things a little bit more, a little bit less obsessive. And yeah, whilst also trying to keep a good range of steels, locking mechanisms, brands, and everything else like that too. So really, really happy with my collection at the moment. What do you think? Yeah, overall, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.